This is a video that will run through finding Apple expenses. So let's go into finance.yahoo.com. We're going to search for AA or Apple, or you could search for the ticker symbol, which happens to be AAPL. Once we get in here and pull up our company, then we'll go into Profile. And then once we get there, you'll see Events over on the right-hand side, and we're looking for the 10K event. So if we come down here, we'll see the latest 10K was October 28th, 2015. So I'm going to pull up the full filing. And then it's typically going to be in the income statement. And right here, we'll see the operating expenses, and this is what we want to collect for this exercise. So I'm just going to grab these, and notice that these are start in 2015, go to 2014, and then 2013. So I'm going to come over here into our sheet. I'm going to paste it. Oh, let me right-click and copy. Copy. Okay, paste it, and I'm going to clean these up a little bit. Take out all the extra columns. So we're just left with our data here. And then now I'm going to take this data and then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go paste that into these cells right here. We have a couple extra empty rows, and I'm just going to delete those. Okay, so now we're left with our 2015, 2014, and 2013 data. So now I'm just going to add, I'm going to make all these into currency with 0 decimal places. So grab currency here, and then 0, because these numbers actually represent millions. So these numbers happen to be billions of dollars. That's a lot. Apple's a big company. So now we're going to do auto sum. Now, since the year is also a number, Excel is automatically going to select that, but we don't want to include the year in our numbers here. So I'm just going to grab here. And then we'll see this little marker here, and if we click on this guy, it's going to give us our little error symbol, and it says, hey, you've omitted adjacent cells. And in this case, we want to do this, so you could just say ignore the error. Now we could right-click and autofill over. So that gives us our numbers for 2014 and 2013 as well. What we can do now is grab our Sparklines. So I just grab these two for these 2 years. We'll go into Insert, Sparkline Lines. We're going to use this for a data range. Click on OK, and then I like to do markers just because it makes it nice and solid in there. And we'll hit return and then escape. Okay, so that's completed these steps right here. The next step, we want to calculate the 2015 expense. So what this is going to be the like the research and development, that proportion of the total for the year 2015. I'm actually going to skip ahead to step 4. I'm going to add 2 other cells in here as well to do our percent expense for 2014 and 2013. So I could just quickly run through these. Just going to make that 2014, and then we're going to make this 2013. All right, so to do this, we're going to say equals this amount divided by our total. Now, actually, I did the total twice there. So we're going to grab B2 divided by B4. Since we don't want B4 to change, what we'll do is I'm going to press F4 to make that an absolute value. This doesn't look like very much of a percentage, so now I'm going to make this into a percent and increase it 1 decimal. And now I'm going to pull this down, and we'll see that we have 36% and 64%. The next thing I want to do is do this for 2014. So this time I'm going to do C2 divided by the absolute value of C4. Make this into a percent, 1 decimal, and pull it over. Now notice that on these, since they're whole pies, so it's that percent of the expenses, that each of these will equal 100%. So we can see down here in the bottom right that the sum of those two are 100%. If in fact you did include your year, you'll see that if you do the sum for 2015, that does not come up to 100%. So that's an indicator that can kind of show you how, as a cross-check, that something might be wrong. All right, let's do 2013 expenses. You can divide that by the absolute value of D4. And then I'm just going to pull this down. Okay, and then now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to format Paint, and that'll give us the same result right here. Okay, so we formatted Paint with percent and 1 decimal place, and that's what we got here. The next thing we want to do is find the percent change from 2014 to 2015. And we're going to use the formula new minus old divided by old. So we have to make sure we do the new minus old in parentheses. Otherwise, due to order of operations, old divided by old would happen first, and then you subtract that from new, which would be new minus 1, because you have old divided by old, that would be 1. So here we're going to say equals, put our parentheses, between 2015 and 2014, the new is going to be 2015 minus the old, 2014, divided by old. So this is dollars, so we don't want to do that. But if we look at our formula here, we can see that we have B2 minus C2. Now, if I pull this down, that would equal to B3 minus C3 divided by C3, and we can do that. So I'm going to pull this guy down. Okay, so now we have B3 minus C3 divided by C3. And then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to, we could do the same thing if we wanted to here. If we drag this over, then this is going to be C3, which would be new in this case, 2014, minus D2. I'm sorry, this is C2 minus D2 in parentheses divided by D2. So I could just pull these over, and we want to have these as percentages as well. I'm going to keep it consistent, and I'm just going to grab this guy. I'm going to do format Paint all this. So now we have everything in percentages. If we look at I1 and J1, we can see that these are exceeding the width. So one way we could do this is do auto hide, but we can also just grab these two and do wrap text. And we'll typically put this centered below. So now you have these nice and centered and wrap text. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to insert a row above row 1 and call that Apple expenses 2015 through, or 2013 through 2015. There's a typo there. So let me insert, and then we're going to say Apple 2013 to 2015 expenses. And then what we'll do is we'll do a merge and center so that this title is across all these guys right here. In fact, if we want to, we can even put some borders in here. So we do all borders maybe. Then maybe we do like a outer border. Okay, so that makes it look all nice and stand out. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to do a bar chart for the yearly totals and move that to a new chart called annual. We're going to update the chart title to Apple 2013 to 2015 annual expense totals and put that legend on the right. So to do this, we're going to grab A2 to D2, and then we're going to grab A5 over to D5. Since they're not contiguous, we don't get the quick analysis. So I'm going to manually put in a bar chart. So we click this, and then we want to do either 2D or 3D bar chart. That's fine. And we wanted to move this to a new chart called annual. And then we wanted to say Apple 2013 to 2015 annual totals, and we'll hit escape to come out of here, and then we'll move our legend. We could do a legend if we wanted to and put that over to the right. Okay, and that'll be total. All right, so let's go, and we typically move our charts over to the right. So let's go back into annual expenses. This time we want to do a column chart for 2013 to 2015 expenses. To do this, make sure you grab from A2 down to D4. So you're going to grab the categories here in the A column, but we're not going to include the total. So again, grab the categories, but don't include the total. In this case, since everything's contiguous, we'll see a quick analysis bar, chart, clustered column, and then we're going to move this chart to a new tab called Apple Expense. And then here we can also move the legend over to the right. And we could say Apple 2013 to 2015 expenses and hit escape. All right, so we're almost there. We're going to move this over. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is create a pie chart out of the 2014 expenses. So when we do our pie charts, we're also going to grab A2, or grab the A column to make sure we grab our categories. Since this is not contiguous, we're going to hit Control again. We're going to grab C2 to C4. Again, we're not going to grab total when we do our pie chart here. I'm going to insert. I'm going to put a 3D pie chart. Move our chart to a new sheet. We'll call that 2014 expenses. Okay. And then if we want to, we can do data callouts. So that gives us our percentage, and we can also move, and we could do things with best fit. And we can also move our legend over to the right as well. Okay. And here we wanted to put Apple 2014 expenses. And then we're going to move this also over to the right. Okay. Okay, so I believe that's, oh, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to do goal seek. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to use goal seek to reduce the largest value for the most recent year by changing its expense value column D. Actually, this should be column B since we have 2015 over here. So in this case, if we look at the percent expense for 2015, the largest value is going to be selling, general, and administrative. So what we can do is we can click on the cell we want to change, F4, go into data, what if analysis, and then we can do goal seek, and we could say set this value to 61.0 percent, make sure you put percent here, because if you just put 61, that would represent 6100%, or you could simply do 0.610, that would be the same thing. And we're going to change this by changing cell, the B4 in this case, and click on OK. So now we could see that goal seek brought us down to 61%, and it reduced our initial value down to 12,607. If you wanted to keep it this way, you can click OK. Otherwise, you can write it down. And this is what you'll need to do for your midterm project, is write that number down. Then you can click cancel, and then it'll roll back. But even if you did go forward with it, with the goal seek, you can always Control Z and come back. Okay? So, and then I wanted you guys to put that in the 2016 value for the expense and the updated value. So that was cell general admin. I think it was 12,607. Okay. So there you go. This concludes our Apple expenses example. And then we'll pick up with the Hoover Dam and house payment in the next video.